Okay, some more problems from section 4.4, a couple more proofs, and this is number 14. We had to kind of add a little bit to this, so this is what it should look like. This is the sketch. And they'd given us some sides, so I kind of filled that in. And they told us that AB was, we had to put the letters in so we could get it in the right form for proof. So AB is congruent to DB. So put a little mark there. And angle ABC is congruent to angle DBC. So we could put an arc and a mark. So those two angles are congruent. And we want to prove that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DBC. And since we have an angle, our strategy will probably be to find side, angle, side. So let's get to it. So the first thing, we always write down our givens. So we got AB is congruent to DB. That's given. And we also have angle ABC is congruent to angle DBC. That was also given. So now we have a side and an angle. Again, we look at our two triangles. Here's triangle ABC. And notice that we've got side CB. And we have triangle DBC. And we also have side CB in there. So CB is in both sides. It's a common side. So we can say it's congruent to itself by the reflexive property. And that's going to give us our second side. So we can say that CB, or BC, is congruent to CB. Of congruence, and that's going to give us our second side. And remember, for side, angle, side, the angle has got to be included between the two sides, or the angle has to be the angle that forms the two sides. Those are the two sides of the angles, and that's what we have. So we have side, angle, side, side, angle, side. So therefore, I'm done. My two triangles are congruent. And our last statement is what we want to prove, always what we want to prove. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DBC. And why? Side, angle, side. So I think that's pretty straightforward. Now, the hardest thing is going to be like drawing a sketch. You could trace it out of the book if that helps. And writing down your given. Sketch is what took me the longest time. So everything else, the statement reason, you have to have the numbers, the horizontal line, the vertical line, the word statement, the word reasons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, what you want to prove, given. Make sure you put the little line marks over the segments. Don't forget those. And a nice sketch that's nice. Labeled and neat. You have to do all this stuff to have a good proof. And when we grade these things for quizzes, we'll be checking all these little details. Everything will be worth points. Okay. And one more, number 15. We kind of altered this. I kind of made kind of an error when I did my correspondence. Somebody asked me on the board, because actually all these segments are the same. So I took a little bit of leeway here. So we do have that, so I changed this a little bit from where I marked it on the board because my correspondence was off. I wasn't paying attention to my correspondence when I put these little marks on it. I should have. So all these segments are congruent, so just for the sake of simplicity, I just called these the same. And I just put a little pencil mark on these to indicate that I'm going to group these together. Because what I asked you to prove was triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEC. So the corresponding sides AB would have to correspond to DE. So, well, I'm sorry, AC, excuse me. AC would have to correspond to DC. and that's here. So I had to make these the same rather than those the same, just because of the way I wrote my correspondence, okay? So AC would have to be congruent to DC, and BC would have to be congruent to EC. So that's the way they have to work, okay? Sometimes they're crossed the other way, but I would have to write the correspondence different. So when I set this up, I kind of designed this in this because this didn't have any of the letters, so you can set it up like this, all right? So let's get to it. So first of all, we have our given. And that's given. And that's a side. Now, well, we'll write the other given, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the other given down here and leave space for this statement. So you'll see why in just a second, so you're not confused. So the other given was BC was congruent to EC, and that was given. Because the strategy we're going to use will be side, angle, side. So this doesn't confuse you when we look at these letters over here. I'm going to leave room for my angle. Okay? So now I don't have any other information that's given, so I have to get an angle. So I have to do that by observation. And one of the most valuable ways we can get angles by observation is when we have vertical angles. And these angles are vertical angles. So I could say angle ACB, that's this angle here, ACB is congruent to angle DCE. Yeah. DCE. And why is that? What kind of angles are those? Those are vertical angles. Now we can do this by observation. In the past, I've asked you to write that down as a given by the sketch, so we could just look at the sketch and say that. So from now on, if you see the vertical angles, you know what they look like because they're just the result of intersecting lines. So you can just say vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent, and you can use that abbreviation because we use that a lot. Okay, I wrote this up so it kind of matched my correspondence. ACB is congruent to DCE, ACB, DCE, so it kind of matches the same way. And what's that going to be? That's going to be an angle. So that's why I put it here, because we can look over here and we can see we have side, angle, side. So it kind of matches our strategy. So we do have the 3 parts we need. We only need 3 parts to prove the triangles are congruent, and we've got those. The sides were given, and the angle was by observing that we had vertical angles. So we've got side, angle, side. So we're all done. So we can write our final step is what we want to prove. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle. It's congruent to triangle DEC. And what's my reason? Side, angle, side. Remember, we used to need 6 parts. We only need now 3 parts because of those 2 very valuable postulates, side, 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 and side, angle, side. Okay, I hope that helps.